Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Big Four podcast. We got an exciting one for you today. We're going to start in the Big Ten, obviously, with a pretty big game. Michigan up 30-14, lose the game. So reactions from this loss.
Yeah, I have to be honest here. I was wrong. I said I was concerned because Michigan hasn't started fast the last few games. But I'll tell you what, they came out, they went up 10-0, and they just kept blowing leads. They couldn't hold a lead. I mean, Michigan just totally give credit to Michigan State. They hung around here and they made the plays when they needed to make the plays. But God, Michigan just handed this to them on a platter. And to credit to Michigan State, and they took it and they're running with it. And it's a great win for this program. But God, Michigan, what a horrible. This was a Jim Harbaugh special. That's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, Luke said it. Pretty much covered the analysis for this game. Michigan handed it to Michigan State. Some credit goes to MSU. They didn't lay down. I wouldn't expect them to.
That's what real teams don't lay down. Real teams don't lose 62-39 to their rival.
Good culture. Michigan State, it's a tough team, so they didn't lay down. So that's the only reason they won the game. Michigan handed it to them. Michigan was the better team the entire game. Outgained them by almost 200 yards.
They won the game because they took advantage of Michigan's mistakes.
Yep. Well, we outgained them by almost 200 yards.
If you get handed it, you got to take it.
Yeah, exactly. They did. They took it. As for Michigan State, obviously the offensive line, run blocking was very good. Michigan's defensive line is not great, but a very good job by the Michigan State offensive line. Peyton Thorne, terrible in the first half. Second half, a little bit better. He made that throw on that 4th and 4. I think that was late third quarter or early fourth quarter. That was a great throw. But other than that, it was a lot of Kenneth Walker, a lot of this offensive line. So you got to give credit to Michigan State. They took it. As for Michigan, as Luke said, this is the most Jim Harbaugh loss you could have had. You go up 30-14.
I mean, they had it 3 times at least.
Oh, they had it.
And they just couldn't close it out.
There's so many. You get the drop. The one that nobody's talking about is the duck that Peyton Thorne threw up at the end of the third quarter that was just dropped for a pick.
No, it was batted down.
It was not. It would have ended the game.
It was.
And,
did you see the highlights? It was batted down.
It was a drop pick. Would have ended the game. My biggest problem with this game, and by the way, first of all, I'll give credit to Michigan State for stopping the run against Michigan. That was impressive. They made Michigan throw, and that leads me into my next point. We did. We threw it because we were the best quarterback in the Big Ten. But guess what? Jim Harbaugh likes to play our backup. And I know there's some people saying that McNamara was in some sort of protocol on that fumble. First of all, even if he was, that doesn't change the fact that McCarthy hurt us all game. And I've been saying this all year. You have to pick one quarterback. McNamara is playing the game of his life. He was phenomenal in this game. You have McCarthy come in one of the drives in the fourth quarter. You're sitting at the 25-yard line of Michigan State. Chance to extend the lead. He comes in, runs a read option on the first play, loses a yard. It's 2nd and 11. When he comes into the game, they run it. Everybody knows that. Why is he still coming into the game?
He threw it 4 times.
Yeah, well, that never happens. It doesn't matter. This guy, I'm trying to resist saying something bad about McCarthy because he shouldn't be in the game. Harbaugh and Gaddis, putting him in the game really all year has been shameful. I understand they don't want him to transfer, but give me a break. You're trying to win football games. Your QB1 is playing the game of his life, and you're taking him out.
Could you imagine if Ohio State was doing that with Quinn Ewers?
Yeah, seriously. Not to mention that before the fumble that Michigan State got, the drive before, he fumbled. And it should have been a scoop and score for Michigan State, but they muffed up the fumble.
Yeah, Ronald Williams kicked it out of bounds.
Yeah, exactly. Kicked it out of bounds. Should have been a scoop and score. That would have really ended the game. for MSU. But anyways, I saw this coming. Mike and I were at the game. For all our listeners that didn't know that. First of all, if I was a neutral fan, you couldn't have picked a better game to go to. That was probably the best game of the year. But anyways, it was when Michigan State made it 30-20. I turned to Mike and I said, "This game is over. Michigan's going to blow this," and they did. I've seen.
Well, I said the game was over plenty of times, so
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean anything
No,
when you say that.
I've seen the movie way too many times. Michigan handing teams games they have no business winning. This is one of them. An embarrassing game for Harbaugh, and as long as he loses to Ohio State, I don't see how they can bring him back next year.
Well, I'll start with Michigan. As bad as it was a bad loss. I think I've come out with a better. Well, I think Michigan's a better team than I thought they were coming in. They played a hell of a game, getting up 30-14 on a team that usually it's Michigan State that gets out to a fast start in this rivalry, but Michigan put it to us. Couple bad mistakes. I thought we were moving the ball early, and then we just made a couple bad mistakes. The second interception was pure luck, but that sometimes that happens. The officiating wasn't great, but it wasn't great both ways. And
yeah, the Michigan fans that are blaming the officials should not be allowed to watch college football.
Not even the fans. It's Harbaugh. He's still blaming the officials.
What did Harbaugh say?
He said something about how that play should have never been overturned. He said it Monday in his press conference when any other team.
Well, he complains about the officials after every game. When he lost to Ohio State by 40 points, he was complaining about the officials.
Yeah. You know what a leader does? A leader blames himself. A leader doesn't blame somebody else for his failures.
Well, he will not.
He's a shitty coach. He's a shitty leader.
Well,
and the players he recruits are the guys he recruits are guys that want to have their ass kissed. They don't want to work for it.
Well, that's true, except for our quarterback and our kicker. Well, sorry, our starting quarterback, not our backup that comes in at random points in the game.
Yeah, I mean there are exceptions to the rule, but Michigan's got a culture problem. They do, and it starts with the head coach. Notice how once Harbaugh's gotten his guys in there, Michigan has just once they get punched in the mouth, they don't respond, and they're great bullying. Michigan is a great bullying team. That if they get up big on you, usually they kill you. But once they got punched in the mouth, once we got that first 2-point conversion, and it looked like they had a little glazy look in their eyes.
They're terrible under pressure.
Yeah,
unless it's against Nebraska, who's worse under pressure.
How about this quote? This quote from Mel Tucker before the game. I think this was to either Gus Johnson or Joel Klatt when they interviewed him. He said, we're going to body shot them from the beginning, and when we get to the championship rounds, we're going to make them flinch because our guys are tougher than their guys. And he was 100% right. Our guys are tougher than their guys, mentally and physically. Obviously, Michigan passed the ball extremely well, but they didn't run the ball well. I thought our game plan was pretty solid on defense. Make McNamara beat us, and he almost did, but when it really mattered, he couldn't make the big throws at the end.
Okay.
So the game plan,
I'm not standing. I'm not gonna sit here and stand for this. Anything said about Cade McNamara today should be voided by anyone.
He could have ended the game several times, and he missed. Throws.
So Cade McNamara, as we know, he's not very good on deep throws. But frankly, the guy is one of the most accurate throwers.
Deep throws. He had a guy wide open. He overthrew him.
Well,
that's inexcusable.
Hit the guy's hands. So I'm not sure that Cade McNamara could stop Cornelius Johnson from dropping a 12-yard hook route in the fourth quarter on second down. I don't know that he could stop that. I don't know that he could stop a complete collapse from the defense.
Well, guess what? You make more mistakes in the passing game when you don't prepare your passing game for this time. I would tell you all year long, there is no reason to run the ball 100 times when you can pass it. There's no reason.
No,
you've got to prepare your team.
They passed the ball really well. They passed the ball really well.
Yeah, not well enough because
it was well enough until we brought him a backup quarterback to start fumbling the ball around.
Oh, I mean, it was Cade that threw the game-losing interception. It was a bad read.
I have
several bad reads.
First of all, listen, I'm not going to say that was a great read, but that is not picked off. That's an incomplete pass or a catch 9 out of 10 times. The guy came over and one-handed it. The guy came over and one-handed it. He took it out of Eric All's hands.
was not in his hands. It never
It
got
was
to
in
his
his
hands.
hands. He one hand. It was
Never
an
got to his
incredible
hands.
play by the Michigan State defender.
Yeah, it was an incredible play, and that was like the first possession of zone we played all game. So I understand him getting a little confused on that play. But there were several throws.
I mean,
he didn't make.
the guy showed a lot this weekend. He showed.
Yeah, he was good. He was very good, but he was very good in the first half. The first drive out of the second half, that touchdown throw was great. But they were just.
I'll tell you what, if we had any other quarterback that Harbaugh's had at Michigan, they're not putting up these numbers today.
Yeah,
in that game.
I agree with you.
He's
But
the best
I thought our
quarterback
game
Harbaugh's
plan-
had. It's not even close.
I thought our game plan was still very good. You got to make their weak link beat you, and they almost did. So you got to tip your cap to it, but they couldn't quite get it done. And offensively, I was shocked that we were able to run the ball. And once Jalen Naylor got out of the game, or was out of the game, I have no idea why Michigan didn't switch their defense. I mean, if you
Why would
lose,
they do that?
well, I mean, Michigan had a poor defensive game plan. It was okay to start. I mean, you want to stop the deep play, the big plays, that's fine. Let Kenneth Walker beat you a little bit. But once our number 2 receiver goes out, you got to load the box and you got to make Peyton Thorne throw the ball. You got to, because Jaden Reed's the only guy we have who's got real experience out there.
They also were horrible with tackling. Terrible.
Yeah, I thought Michigan was a little undisciplined several times.
I mean, I'm shocked by that.
You can't let Kenneth Walker outside. It's not just that. I mean, yes, they were making people miss. He was making people miss, but they let him get to the outside way too many times. And teams that have stopped that, like Rutgers, definitely not Rutgers. Nebraska stopped it, and Indiana just loaded the box. So that was the way they did it. That's what I thought Michigan should have done at the end of the game, and they didn't. And also the substitution, that's just peewee stuff. This isn't the NFL. I mean, you cannot substitute when another team is going fast. You can't do it.
It's ridiculous.
I don't know I have no idea what they were doing there. It cost them. I think someone counted it. It cost them for like 4 penalties. Michigan State did it 7 times in the game or something like that.
Klatt was saying he thinks it's because of Michigan's new DC came from the Ravens, so he thought he wasn't used to the difference between the NFL and college.
Yeah, well, you got to adapt. I mean,
yeah, I mean, whatever if our coordinator is making a mistake, I'm blaming Harbaugh. It's his staff. He deserves 0% of the benefit of the doubt at this point. It's ridiculous.
And I just want to compliment our team's mental toughness. I mean, there have been 3 or 4 games this year where we should have lost, but we found a way. This team finds ways to win. I still don't think we're a great team, but I mean, you can't argue with the record. You are what your record says you are. And we're a very good team. I don't think we're a great team. We'll see this week. I think this is going to be a week that's going to be really tough. Coming off an emotional win, but big picture wise, this was a huge win. We had over 30 recruits at the game, from 5 stars to 3 stars. Everybody was there. Big targets were there, and that's going to be a big recruiting win for us. And we're already dominating in-state recruiting. Watch out if we start, landing guys from other states.
Well, your coach is going to leave, so.
Well, we'll see. I think 90% of people don't think he's going to leave in the pro. Well, more than 90, 100%. He's not leaving, but you can keep dreaming.
Well, he's the betting favorite. He's the betting favorite to be the next coach.
Michigan fans are just mad that in year 2, Mel Tucker has built a program that has been better than anything that Jim Harbaugh has ever done.
Well, he's the betting favorite to go to LSU. So that's a good 2 years he had.
Well, he was, and he's not anymore, actually.
That's probably because everybody bet on him.
Yeah, well, that's how it works. His odds were too low.
If everyone bet on him, his odds would be low.
His odds were too low, and then people bet on him, and that was odds were too high, so people bet on someone else.
Well, he's going to be at LSU next year. I'm guaranteeing you. You heard it first in the big.
Good, you can guarantee that he won't be. He'll be at Michigan State.
Then you can get Pat Narduzzi.
Well, listen, I wouldn't be mad. That'd be a great hire. But yeah, that was a team win, solid program victory. And we got to move on. All right. You can't dwell on the past. We aren't Michigan. We don't live in the 1920s. We got to move on for the future. This is a big game coming up. You win next week, and then you're going into the Ohio State game with at least something to play for. you at least you've clinched that because you'll at least be at the worst you'd be 9-1 if you win this week. So it's a very important game. Got to win that game. All right. I think we'll move on to this next game. Penn State showed a little bit of fight, but Ohio State able to close it out at the end. So reactions from this game.
Yeah, it was a weird game. It was one of those games where kind of Ohio State, you never felt that like they were going to lose, but they never had a lead that was big enough to make you comfortable, if that makes any sense. Travion Henderson ended up having a decent game. He struggled to start, struggled in the first half a little bit, and Stroud ended up having a decent game. But it seemed like, I mean, defensively Ohio State played pretty well, but it seemed like offensively they were very vanilla. They kept running the ball it was the same run play right up the two gap to the right, and it was weird. I don't know if they were trying to like save some looks for Michigan and Michigan State or what, but it just seemed very, very vanilla. But
Saving looks for Nebraska.
Yeah, that's right. Saving looks for Nebraska. Well, we did that onside kick against Maryland a couple years ago instead of saving it for anybody else. But Maryland, as Chris would say, is the best team in the conference.
A very good team.
And but Sean Clifford actually looked very good. He didn't look completely healthy, but he looked, I mean, as healthy as you're going to get week 8 or week 9 or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, good win over a ranked team, game you needed to win. You won. Move on to next week.
Yeah, I mean,
and the defense looks very improved. I mean,
I take nothing.
Penn State rushed for 33 yards.
Well, Penn State can't run the ball.
That's everybody ran the ball against Ohio State earlier in the year.
I take nothing out of this for Ohio State. As for Penn State, Clifford was playing a good game until the end. Shocker. Chance to go down and take the lead. Fourth quarter, down 3, interception. Chance to go down and take the lead. Fourth quarter, down 6, 3 and out. I mean, this guy is really what a front runner this guy is. I cannot stand Sean Clifford. He is terrible. I am so sick of hearing about him.
He's like McNamara.
Oh yeah, right.
Only he's better.
Please, it's a complete joke from the national media that people talk about how Sean Clifford's any good. He's not. He's awful.
He carries them.
Well, he didn't carry them anything. They're 5-3.
He's like what Trace McSorley was at the end.
No.
He had to carry them, and he couldn't do it.
Clifford is, maybe. Clifford is terrible. He's just dreadful.
It's better than Daquan, whatever the hell
that is true. I mean, Penn State, not a very good team. They better not be ranked when Michigan plays.
They'll be ranked
because we will lose to them because Harbaugh's never won a ranked game on the road.
They're going to be ranked just so the committee can give an excuse to keep Michigan State and Ohio State in the top 5.
Well, they need to keep them unranked, or else we're going to lose to them because we don't beat ranked teams on the road. Because we play them in a couple of weeks, so we'll see how that plays out.
If Harbaugh doesn't beat Penn State, you keep talking about this Ohio State games, his make or break. This Penn State game's the make or break. If he doesn't beat Penn State, he's done. No matter, I mean, because he's not going to beat Ohio State.
Beat your rivals. Don't care. Beat your rivals.
Well, he did beat Western this year, so that's a rival.
What's going to happen is he's going to lose to Ohio State, and then we're going to lose to Notre Dame in a bowl game. We're going to lose to all 3 rivals.
Well, if he loses to Penn State and Ohio State, he's done. He's not going to get to that Notre Dame game.
That'd be the perfect way to end the season. Yeah, I mean, this is a little concerning if you're Michigan or Michigan State. Yeah, I think you deep down wanted Penn State to be just done, wanted them to be mentally checked out, but they played a good game, had a chance. They could have won the game if they didn't have that fumble that got taken back in the first half. I mean, they would have had a chance.
Sean Clifford didn't throw a pick in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that doesn't help either. Ohio State's a good defensive team now, and that's obviously wasn't the case a couple weeks ago.
No, we're not good. We are We are good enough where we don't hold back the offense.
Yeah, they don't have to be great. They just have to be good enough. They gave up a ton of yards passing, but
that's what college football is now. You don't need to have a great defense. You just have to have a good enough defense.
I mean, 361 on 52 attempts. I mean, it could be worse. I mean, 7 yards per play, not amazing. 7 yards per attempt, not amazing. So, yeah, I mean, Penn State, they're going to be a tough out, definitely. I mean, they have a tough game this week against Maryland. A game where they could lose. They got destroyed by them last year, and then Michigan's probably going to be their Super Bowl. I hope that's another whiteout game. I don't know if they do 2 in 1 year, but that'd be great if they did. But yeah, a solid win for Ohio State. People saying, "Oh, Ohio State's not good because they didn't blow out Penn State." I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, give me a break.
Give me a break. Penn State's a talented team, probably second or third most talented in the Big Ten. Probably Michigan has more talent, but Penn State's a talented team. Ohio State took care of business. You can't really complain about that. All right, on to a game that I know when we were in the stadium and we saw this score, we were shocked. Wisconsin 27, Iowa 7. Reaction from this game and from the seems like these two teams are going in different directions right now.
Yeah, well, here's Mike. I have to give you credit because you talked about this a lot early in the year with Iowa when they got up to 2 in the country, 3 in the country, whatever it was.
Yeah, and they got up to like plus 20 turnover margin at one point.
Yeah, you were talking about how the way their defense was playing was not sustainable. They were scoring all their points, like the Notre Dame game they pulled away because of their defensive turnovers, and you were just saying it's not sustainable, and that looks like it's the case. Wisconsin, I mean, they're fighting their way back into this Big Ten West conversation that we thought was pretty much over. And Iowa lost to Purdue, lost to Wisconsin, scored a total of 14 points. I mean, even that Penn State win, 23 points, and they would have lost if Sean Clifford didn't get hurt. So, and I was lucky that they have an easy schedule here on outside of Minnesota, but golly, they are now for what we thought was going to be a pretty much their Big Ten West control. They have really choked this thing away.
Yeah, I also give credit to Mike on Iowa. Wisconsin's going to win the West. They've figured out their run game.
Once again, Chris, it's going to come down to Floyd of Rosedale.
Yeah, probably. Over the last 4 weeks, Iowa or
Isn't that the game between Wisconsin and that's Paul Bunyan's axe, isn't it? Wisconsin and Minnesota.
That's Paul Bunyan's axe.
Yeah, Paul
Floyd of
Bunyan's
Rosedale's Iowa, Minnesota.
It's Minnesota,
right?
Yeah, Iowa.
The last 4 weeks, Wisconsin has figured out how to run the football. So that is the reason why they have a pulse on offense now. And we knew Iowa's offense was dreadful. They can't throw, they can't run. Their offensive line's terrible. They're going the wrong direction. Maybe they'll beat Minnesota. Maybe I just don't see Wisconsin losing the rest of the way.
Well, Chris, the way Wisconsin has played this year, they could lose any game, but
no, I think they figured it out.
They do have the easiest schedule the world's ever seen, and then you have a rivalry game at the end. So,
yeah, it's going to be once again just like what was that 2019? It's going to be Paul Bunyan's axe for Big Ten West. That's exciting. It's always exciting.
Yeah, that was the year I was on Minnesota all year, and then they choked it.
Yeah, Wisconsin killed them, but I think Minnesota. I mean that team is just. I mean, they played a little above their skis, even though they beat Auburn in a bowl game.
They were like Indiana. They were like Indiana last year, where just everything went right. Everything that could go right went right.
These two teams are very similar. The only difference is Wisconsin's got a good offensive line and Iowa's got an atrocious offensive line, which is sad because Iowa's got an All-American center. So I don't know what the hell's going on there. Usually Iowa's got at least a decent offensive line, but here's the problem Iowa's always had is they're always a poor man's version of Wisconsin in like every way. And I include defense. I like Iowa's defense. They got a lot of turnovers, but I still think Wisconsin's defense is better. I think they've shored up the secondary a little bit more. And their secondary is not going to get exposed against Spencer Petras, who might be the worst quarterback in the history of college football. He is so bad. He is atrocious. And he makes Nate Stanley look like Joe Montana. running that offense. I mean, Jesus. But Wisconsin, you got to give them credit. I mean, what is their strategy? Wisconsin's strategy is simple. We're not going to let Graham Mertz hurt us. We're going to run the ball over and over again. And it's worked because Purdue couldn't stop the run and Iowa couldn't stop the run enough. So it's been working. It's been working. I mean, we can see there's a clear blueprint how to beat Wisconsin. You got to stop the run. I'd put all 11 guys up at the line of scrimmage to stop the run and then hope Graham Mertz. Because here's the thing, wide open receiver Graham Mertz is going to airmail him anyway. So I'd leave everybody wide open. That's what I do. And hope a run doesn't
11. You're going to send 11?
Yeah, I would. I would against Wisconsin. I do the same against Iowa, but Iowa can't run the ball anyway. So it doesn't matter what I do at Iowa. I could put a peewee team out there. Iowa wouldn't be able to run the ball. I mean, seriously, it is embarrassing, especially when you look at last year's Iowa team, which obviously has to be disappointing because last year's Iowa team would have won the West if it was a real year, probably. And they would have had a shot at something because that team was really good. But then you look at this year, it's just not even close. This Iowa team's terrible. And, they're 12-point favorites against Northwestern. I don't even know if they can score 12 points. So even on Northwestern. So we'll see. We'll see how their season ends. All right. Big Ten scoreboard. We have a couple other games that we could talk about. Rutgers defeated Illinois.
Big win for Rutgers. Big win.
Yeah. Two more wins.
Bowl game.
Yeah, 2 more wins until a possible bowl appearance. Maryland is only 1 game away now with their win against Indiana. Minnesota, big win against Northwestern.
Mike, if Maryland wins this week, are you going to admit Chris was right?
Yes.
If Maryland makes the bowl, you have to start.
No. They're not going 8-4, but I mean, they'll make a bowl if they win.
I mean,
sure.
If Maryland makes a bowl, you have to start calling them bowl eligible.
All right. I still don't think they're going to make a bowl, even though what are they 5-3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to lose out. So.
I mean, it's possible. They do have one of the hardest schedules.
You play Penn State, Michigan, and then Rutgers. That's going to be the game right there. That's the game they're going to have to win. And I think Shiano's going to have them ready. So I'd take Rutgers.
How amazing was that last game, Rutgers, Maryland? They both go in 5 and 6
for a bowl game. Wow,
for a bowl game.
Who does Rutgers? Yeah, Rutgers could beat Indiana, and then okay. Yeah, that'd be interesting. What other game do we have on here? Oh yeah, Purdue, Nebraska finds a way to lose again. They lose to Purdue 28-23.
Yeah. I mean, that might be the writing. That might be the writing on the wall for Scott Frost.
Yep.
1-5 in Big Ten play now. Doesn't look like they're going to make a bowl game. They might end up 3-9 with Ohio State.
The most Nebraska thing. The most Nebraska thing ever would be if they beat Ohio State, beat Wisconsin, and then lost to Iowa, and then didn't make a bowl.
It's true, but I still think they should give them another year. But I mean, if they at this point, if you want to make a run at Campbell or Fickle, you're gonna have to get rid of
Jeff
them
Monken.
now. So Jeff Monken, sure.
Yeah, Mike. Both of your teams that you're irrationally in love with this week, Texas and Nebraska, found ways to lose again.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sometimes there are just some intangible things that the metrics just don't take into account.
Can't measure.
Yeah, I mean, Nebraska's still a top 25 power rated team, and so is Texas. So this is why you can't fall in love with that side of thing. And I am guilty of it. I've fallen in love with it. But Nebraska's even looked good, looked really good at times. So, and Texas looks good every first half and then blows it. So I don't know what to think about that.
All right, I have nothing else to say. I don't know if you guys do.
Well, Rutgers big win, Maryland big win, Minnesota big win.
Good analysis here.
Yep, Tanner Morgan struggles again, but they win again. Tanner Morgan is a shell of his former self, but who knows? I mean, we've seen this before. I think we're probably the best.
Yeah,
case
but let's
that
be honest. Tanner, that 1 year, Tanner Morgan. 1, it was just a magical year for Minnesota, and 2, Rashad Bateman was bailing him out because Rashad Bateman, you just throw it to him, he'll go get the ball.
And Tyler Johnson.
Yeah, and Tyler Johnson.
And the thing is, they didn't really have a great running game that year either. They passed the ball a lot more. This year they got a great offensive line. I'd probably say that they have the best offensive line besides maybe Ohio State in the Big Ten. They just push people over those guys. They'll pass it 15, 16 times a game, and they'll just pound you. But yeah, Minnesota, they're looking pretty good. If they didn't lose to Bowling Green, what do they rank 20th in the college football playoff poll or whatever?
Yeah.
So if they had beaten Bowling Green, only lost to Ohio State, how far would Minnesota be? How high would they be ranked right now?
Probably in the top 10.
No, not top 10. They'd
I don't know,
probably be
top
around
10.
where
They'd probably be
I mean,
around
they're
12.
10 to 15, probably.
I
Probably
mean,
up
that
around Notre
loss
Dame.
just kills them. It's the most PJ Fleck loss of all time, but it's just, because they won every other game besides the Ohio State game pretty easily. Like it's not
And,
just
and
that
they played
lost.
Ohio State tough.
Yeah, they played Ohio State tough. The Purdue game was probably their hardest game after that. I mean, they dominated the Nebraska game, dominated the Maryland game, dominated the Northwestern game, and they'll probably dominate this week against Illinois. So, and then they got 3. Well, Indiana's not good anymore, but it's not going to be easy against Iowa. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with them. All right, let's move on here to pick a game from last week to discuss.
Well, how about Kentucky losing to my guys, Mississippi State? What a win for Mississippi State. Moves them.
Ranked
They're ranked
17th.
17th. What a joke by the committee.
Yeah, what a show.
But, whatever they need to get Alabama up there, they'll do. Will Rogers, 36 for 39 for, where is it here? 344 yards. I mean, this guy's a stud. He's going to be in the Heisman conversation next year, no doubt. Mississippi State is going to be challenging Alabama for the SEC West next year, and not a great loss for Kentucky. I know they play a very particular style of football that they have to play because they can't get the talent in, but obviously they lost to Georgia and they played them tough, and they just had a letdown game to Mississippi State here.
You want to know the craziest line of the week? Tennessee
minus
Kentucky.
like 12.5.
Tennessee at Kentucky. Tennessee -1 on the road at Kentucky.
I'm surprised it's not more, to be honest with you.
Kentucky is one of those teams that have gotten very lucky with turnover luck.
Well,
not
they play
lucky with
trestle
turnover
ball.
luck because they turn over the ball all the time, and they weren't really penalized a lot for it.
They play like the trestle ball style. They run the ball a ton. At least they try to run the ball a ton. And they had to throw it against Mississippi State because they were down most of the game. And they try to shorten the game, control the ball. And they win games because of it. And that's how you have to do it when you're at Kentucky, but still.
All right, my game is Fresno State, San Diego State. I just really want to talk about the chances of Brady Hoke moving up here. Really took a big blow after this loss. I thought, then really, this is the reason.
I'm sure it was high to begin with.
This is the reason
they were undefeated.
Yeah, exactly. This is the reason I was saying Mel Tucker's going to LSU now, because I thought it was going to be Brady Hoke. But after this loss,
Heard Rich Rod was going to USC now.
This loss, I think, derails his chances.
Well, he's down at he's like the offensive coordinator or something down at like Southern Miss.
Oh, UL Monroe now.
Yeah, UL Monroe.
Maybe Hope can get an interview with Texas Tech or TCU. But yeah, tough one for San Diego State.
Yeah, I just want to talk about a team that I got on last week, and that's Iowa State, and they got, terrible loss against West Virginia. It's always a tough environment in Morgantown. But I mean, this was the first game all year that Iowa State has really deserved to lose. They've lost a couple of games where they dominated the stats, dominated the box score, had 200 more yards than their opponent, the Iowa Baylor game, and they lost the game because they didn't play well down the stretch. They didn't do the things they need to do. This game they just flat out lost. Their defense was terrible. Usually, you don't see that. You don't see that a lot with Iowa State. You don't say, "Oh, their defense sucks." Well, it sucked against West Virginia.
It's because Matt Campbell has 1 foot out the door to Michigan.
I don't think. Well, Matt Campbell's 1 foot out the door to Nebraska, right?
That's right.
But West Virginia. I mean, for Iowa State not to win the time possession is telling. That's a stat they usually win every week, and they just lost the game. I mean, you don't see. I was not expecting that at all. Not expecting that from Iowa State whatsoever. I was expecting them to win, not only win, but at least if they were to lose, it'd be the way they've lost all year, and that's just, dominate the game but find a way to lose at the end. And now they take on a Texas team, and they're favored again. So,
and Mike's gonna pick Texas again.
Well, you want to talk about two teams that have been giving games away all year.
Yeah, that's going to be – they're going to be in like 10 overtimes just trying to give each other the game. All right. Let's move on. Actually, before we move on to this.
How about this? I was looking at Rich Rennett, Louisiana Monroe, and they hired Terry Bowden last year on Wikipedia. The description for Terry Bowden, and I understand he coached at Auburn at one point, I believe.
Auburn, yeah. Akron.
He's Bobby Bowden's son, obviously. So it's not like he's a no-name guy. But on Wikipedia, they say during the prior season, Bowden had assisted at Clemson as an unpaid intern.
Jesus.
Absolute disrespect.
Wow.
That's why Clemson's down the drain.
Exactly. He left, and then look what happened. I didn't put this in the topic list, but I guess it's something we could talk about. So Kansas State defeats TCU, and TCU gets rid of. I guess they mutually parted ways with Gary Patterson. It's been a great career.
No, they didn't.
What?
They asked Gary Patterson to retire, and he said no.
I give him credit for that.
I do too. I think it's fair, but it's still funny.
I mean, at the time he's good. At least he didn't pull a D'Antonio and retire in February. So at least they got plenty of time to think about who they want next year for their head coach. We've heard a lot of names. We heard Sonny Dykes, for both the Texas Tech and TCU job. Jeff Traylor, he's a big high school guy there. He's the UTSA coach. I've heard Kellen Moore.
That's right.
I
want Deion Sanders.
Oh yes, of course. I forgot Deion Sanders. I did see that today. So
Deion Sanders just does not fit TCU.
He'd be a good recruiter, that's for sure. So I don't know. Will you want to talk about this at all? But
I just think it's going to be interesting going into the off season between what is it? It's going to be is it Baylor that's going to have an opening? Well, maybe if their coach gets hired away, right?
Yeah, possibly.
But it's what is it? TCU, Baylor, and Texas Tech. All three jobs are probably going to be open at some point.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see them, and all three of them are very similar, and all three of them are probably going to be going after the same guy. So I think TCU kind of saw that. Once TCU saw Texas Tech fire Matt Wells, I think they realized that if they really plan on getting rid of Gary Patterson, they can't wait to the end of the year, and they got to get on now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say. These programs are beyond saving because they have no chance in the landscape of college football.
Yeah, Gary Patterson was beyond saving after what he said from last year, recruiting-wise. But he's a legend. He's got a statue there. And he took TCU to places they couldn't even dream of. He took TCU
literally,
to a power conference.
weren't they in the FCS when he started?
I think they were a bottom level like WAC or not WCC.
Yeah, they were in the WAC or something like that.
Or the Mountain West. They were in
they started in like the WCC and then they went to the Mountain West, and they went to the Big 12.
Yeah, they were like one of the worst teams or whatever conference they were in, and he took them to he took them up and probably now back down because TCU
they started in the WAC, they went to Conference USA, and then they went to the Mountain West.
Yeah.
He went to a Rose Bowl too, I believe, while he was there.
They won it. All right. The playoff rankings were released. yesterday. Well, not yesterday, the day before yesterday. Let me get them out here. So, of course, Georgia 1, Alabama 2, MSU 3, Oregon 4, Ohio State 5, Cincinnati, Michigan, Oklahoma, surprisingly at 8, Wake, Notre Dame, and then, you can look at the rest if you want, but reaction from the playoff rankings, the first one?
My problem, to be honest with you, I don't have a massive problem with them, but my problem is that I don't believe their logic stays consistent throughout the playoff rankings. And it seems like what they did was figured out their top 6, 10 or whatever, and then filled the rankings in to fit that narrative. That's what it seems like to me. That's my big problem with the rankings.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like some consistency.
Yeah, I don't think there's any consistency in the rankings.
I need to know if they're ranking on best teams or most deserving. Obviously, I think there's some variation in there. I also think Oklahoma is criminally underrated at 8. I think that's ridiculous that they're at 8. But other than that, I don't really have too many issues.
Well, I mean, I think the big thing people looked at was Alabama, right? And you look at Alabama's schedule, their best wins over Ole Miss, right? Probably. And then unranked Florida, who's been horrible. My question is how and Alabama lost to Texas A&M. So how does Alabama get ranked? The games have to matter. How does Alabama get ranked by Michigan State, who have a better win? Well, I guess now that they ranked Mississippi State after Alabama beat them by 40, that gives them 2 wins. But Michigan State has the best win
now.
Yeah, the best win. They're undefeated. And Alabama lost to Texas A&M. They probably ranked Texas A&M, didn't they? Yeah, they put them 14. Shocker. I just wish they would come out and be like, hey, we view the conferences this way. Like Cincinnati, just say, hey, they're a group of 5 team and we don't think they play a good schedule. Just say it. Like, stop trying to make it like I know people.
Oh, the committee has great respect for Cincinnati.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They come out and they lie about it. Just say it. Like that's the reason why Houston and SMU aren't ranked. I mean, just come out and say it. Stop putting out rankings and then fixing them to try to make it so you can have some straight logic. Because when you do that, it screws everything up.
Oh, you know what else they did? Is they put Fresno in so that Oregon win for Oregon looks better.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
Then they can justify putting Oregon higher. Well, here's the thing.
I have no problem. I have no problem with Oregon being high. My problem is it just makes the rest of it makes no sense.
But here's the thing. I mean, I think my impression is it's a mix between, it's inconsistent. It's a mix between most deserving and best. If you're saying the 4 best teams and Alabama being 2 makes sense, but I think they want the impression to be the most deserving. In order to justify Alabama being at 2, they got to put Mississippi State at 17, and I don't have a problem.
And Mississippi at 16.
Yeah, and Ole Miss at 16. So, and then Oregon. Obviously Oregon's probably not the 4th best team. I mean, look at the games they play. They barely beat everybody they play, and they lost to Stanford. So at some point, I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then the standard changes with Cincinnati. It's not that you beat Notre Dame. That's a top 10 win, but that apparently they don't care about that because Michigan State's beat nobody except for one.
Cincinnati doesn't have a great win. Cincinnati is probably the 2nd, 3rd best win in the country.
Yeah,
that Notre Dame game when you rank Notre Dame 10. I mean, who else has a better win than that? Michigan State,
Oregon, and Michigan State.
And that's it.
They must really think Michigan's way better than Notre Dame. I mean, they must think they're way better because it makes no sense that Cincinnati be below us. I don't think
Cincinnati also plays teams like Tulane every week, and Michigan State actually has to play real teams. So,
and maybe that's why Oklahoma was at 8 because they couldn't say, "Oh, Cincinnati barely beat Tulane," and then put Oklahoma ahead of them.
Yeah,
because they barely beat Tulane.
One thing I like to look at with these rankings is you can look at which teams
Cincinnati beat Indiana by more than Michigan State beat Indiana.
Indiana sucks. Doesn't matter. I mean, that was before the Michigan game for Michigan State.
And that was an Indiana team that was pretty much fully healthy.
Yeah, I mean, it was a 0-0 game. Well, Indiana was up 14-0 until McFadden got targeting, and then Cincinnati just killed them after that.
The bottom line is Cincinnati's not better than any of the teams in front of them.
No,
Well, they
they're not.
almost
But
beat
the way
Georgia.
they rank the teams make no sense.
One thing I do like to look at with these rankings, you can look at which teams, if they were to win out, have excellent chance to get in if they were to win out.
Mississippi State.
I think there's 8 teams in these rankings that if they were to win out, they were most likely going to be in the playoff. That's everybody in the top 8 except for Cincinnati and Auburn. I don't know if you guys agree with
And
that.
Wake Forest.
Oklahoma State.
I don't know.
Because here's the thing, Baylor.
Wake Forest. If
because
Wake Forest wins out and they're an undefeated ACC champ, they're going in.
No, I don't think so. I don't
they're going
think
to be treated
Wake
like the
can
group
go
of
for
5
destiny.
because that's what the ACC is.
When you rank,
it's the same schedule.
because Luke, they
Clemson's been beating up on.
they ranked Wake 9th, and they play nobody to end the year, unless you want to count NC State as some great win.
I'll tell you this: if a Power 5 champion who's undefeated doesn't make the playoff will be scrapped by the end of the year.
Yeah, but you can't. The ACC can't blame anybody but themselves because the ACC is atrocious.
Terrible.
I mean, it's not.
No, I
Wake's
agree
fault
with you.
that They have no ranked wins so far because they played a bunch of decent teams that aren't ranked. North Carolina's not ranked. North Carolina returned 20 out of 22 starters last year, and they're unranked. They're 4-4.
I agree with you, but they're an undefeated Power 5 champion.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. I mean, they told you by ranking Wake 9th, they told you they have no chance, basically, unless something crazy happens up at the top. And Cincinnati doesn't have a whole lot of chance either, unless at least a little bit of craziness happens towards the top.
The two teams directly below them have a much better chance of making it than they do.
Yeah, exactly. And then Oklahoma State. I mean, I'm telling you, if the Oklahoma State wins out, you got 2 wins over Oklahoma. I'm assuming Oklahoma makes the Big 12 championship. You got 2 straight wins over Oklahoma. You got a win against Baylor. I mean, it's going to be hard.
I still think they need some help. They definitely still need some help.
And Oklahoma doesn't?
No, if Oklahoma wins out, they're in.
Okay. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Unless you're saying, because the loss to Iowa State just means so much for
Well,
Oklahoma
I just don't
State.
think the Big 12 is very good, and I think you have to be undefeated to get in this year, unless you get a decent amount of help.
Okay, now you're turning into Mike.
Well, listen, they could get help, but my point is
my
that
dream is coming true. Well,
the teams,
not really, but
the teams that I listed, if they went out, they have a greater than 90% chance to make it. If Oklahoma State wins out, they do not have a greater than 90% chance to make
yes,
it.
they do.
Here's what's going to happen. I've been texting this. By the last 2-3 weeks of the year, we're going to be talking about all these scenarios that could possibly happen and all these scenarios that are our dream scenarios for chaos. And it's going to end up being Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and probably Oklahoma.
Yep.
No, I'm not convinced with Alabama.
That is. It's going to be.
I'm not convinced. I think Georgia's going to beat them.
Doesn't matter. They'll still put them in.
They'll still put them. If you put
I don't
Alabama in with 2 losses over an undefeated Cincinnati, now we got problems.
Well, they've set
they
it up.
definitely
big
absolutely
problems.
would.
They've set it up.
I mean that would cause absolute chaos. There's no way you could put a 2-loss Alabama in over an undefeated in Cincinnati. No
they
way.
would. Absolutely.
Or an undefeated Wake Forest.
Okay, they definitely do that too.
But at least Cincinnati's got the Notre Dame win. Wake Forest doesn't have anything. That's their problem. Even a 1-loss Big Ten, you can't put a 2-loss Alabama team over a 1-loss.
Yes, you can. Yes,
no,
you
can't.
can. The SEC is much better than every other conference.
Who's Wake Forest going to play in the championship?
Pitt,
NC
probably.
State. Pitt's not a bad one. Pitt's ranked. They'll be ranked at the end of the year.
They do play NC State still. They're ranked.
Yeah, NC State sucks. They might be. The NC
And
State
they have to
always
play
gets to the
Clemson.
top
Clemson
20
could fight. Okay, Wake Forest isn't going to go undefeated because they play UNC, NC State, Wake
They're going to lose
Forest,
this
Pitt,
week.
and BC. They play like the
Well,
5
North
worst teams in
Carolina-
the BC to end the year.
Yeah, well, North Carolina's out of conference, so
That's right.
Oh, that's a good point.
I guess That's their non-conference win. Big non-conference win is at North Carolina if they can win it. All right, updated conference championship and playoff picks. We'll start. I guess we'll start in the Pac-12.
I know I said USC at the beginning of the year. That's not looking too good.
No,
So I'm gonna have to change my pick, especially because my guy Clay Helton's been fired. Let me just take a quick peek at the standings. So it's probably gonna be, I think it's gonna be an Oregon-Utah championship game. So I'll go with, I'll take Utah. I like Kyle Whittingham.
Yeah, Oregon over Utah, but Oregon will lose to Utah 2 weeks before.
Oh, they still have to
won't make
play
it.
each other. Yeah.
Yeah, Oregon's losing one of those games, so they won't make it, but they'll win the Pac-12.
well, my guys up in Corvallis still control their own destiny, which is unbelievable. They embarrassing loss. And they're going to beat Colorado this week. They're going to beat Stanford. They're going to beat Arizona State. And they're going to beat Oregon. So it's going to be Oregon State in the Pac-12 championship game. And then from the South, I think Arizona State is done. I think they've completely just thrown it in. So I think Utah is going to cruise into the Pac-12 championship game, and Utah's going to beat us. They're going to get the revenge, and then Utah's going to go to the Rose Bowl. Huh?
They're going to beat us.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Big 12.
It's looking like, I mean, it's a 3-team race here at the end of the day, right? I mean, I guess Iowa State could maybe sneak in, but I don't think they can.
Well, yeah. I mean, probably
I
not.
don't think they can get it. I mean, they'll have the tiebreaker of Oklahoma State, but they
don't
already
over
lost.
Baylor.
They already lost to Baylor, so I think it's probably going to be an Oklahoma. Oklahoma is going to make it, and they're going to play. Have Oklahoma State and Baylor played each other yet?
Yes,
Oklahoma State beat Baylor, yeah. So it's going to be Oklahoma State, and I think Oklahoma will win.
Yeah, Oklahoma over Oklahoma State.
Yeah, this is my dream scenario here. I would love for those two teams to play 2 straight weeks. And I'd love for Mike Gundy to get his ass kicked 2 straight weeks because he can't beat Oklahoma to save his fucking life. But they gotta take care of West Virginia this week. And West Virginia, not a good team, but I think they showed that they could, give some teams some fits. They gave Iowa State some fits. They gave Oklahoma some fits. So that's going to be a really tough game. You win that game, TCU doesn't have a head coach. Texas Tech doesn't have a head coach. You should win those 2 games. And all of a sudden, that the first Bedlam game means a lot, and then the second Bedlam game in the Big 12 championship game would mean even more. So
I hope Gundy loses the first one and wins the second one, so his Bedlam record still stays at like 1-12.
Well, yeah, I guess would that game not count towards the series?
No, well, it would, but
It
it
has
wouldn't
to.
at the same time.
All right.
It would, but it wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. ACC.
I think Pitt's going to make it from the Coastal, and I think they're going to win the championship game. The question is who comes out of the Atlantic. I'm going to go with NC State.
I agree. NC State's coming out of the Atlantic, and they're going to lose to Pittsburgh. NC State will beat Wake, and the rest of their schedule's a joke. So
I think NC State loses to Florida State this week. So I do not like NC State at all. I just don't. I don't think they're very good.
Can Clemson sneak back into it?
no.
That game, they still have to play. Well, they still
Next
have
thing
to
you
play
know-
Wake.
Well, next thing you know, that Clemson Wake game is going to be for the Atlantic.
Well, they already lost to NC State, so
I think people are underestimating how crazy the Coastal could get because Pitt just lost to Miami, and even Miami's still in this thing. We got a couple 2-loss teams. North
Well, the
Carolina's got 3 losses.
Coastal's crazy every year. I mean, a different team has come out of the Coastal the last 7 years.
Yep. Virginia still controls their own destiny. They play Pittsburgh later this year. And Pitt's obviously still does, but they've kind of squandered it after that terrible loss to Miami. I don't think Virginia Tech's very good. But the winner of that Pittsburgh Virginia game, I think, is gonna make it. I still believe in Pat Narduzzi, though. It's gonna be tough though. That was a really bad loss. Really bad loss. They'll beat Duke. North Carolina is going to be tough. Virginia and then Syracuse. So I mean, we'll see. But I'll take Pitt. and then I'll stick with Wake from the Atlantic because I don't think NC State's very good, and I don't think Clemson's very good either. So, all right, SEC.
I think Georgia wins the SEC because I think they're the best team in the country. I mean, they already won the East, I think, right? They technically clinched already.
I don't think they've technically clinched.
I thought they did because they beat
Yeah,
Kentucky.
they have.
So
You're
like,
right.
they have the tiebreaker.
Because there's 8 games.
Not even
Yeah.
November. And then out of the West, Mississippi State could do it. No, they couldn't do it. I'm trying to get it, but no, they couldn't do it. But I mean, I guess Alabama, right? I take Georgia over Alabama.
Yeah, I'm going to take Alabama over Georgia.
Here's what I'll
Both
say.
of them will get in.
Here's what I'll say about the SEC West. I know people are saying how great the Big Ten East is, and Joel Klatt said that's the best division in college football, and maybe top heavy. It's very top heavy.
Well, the SEC West is better.
I mean, the SEC West. I mean, Arkansas was ranked in the top 10 at one point in their last. Well, they're technically last place in the SEC West. LSU's not good, but I mean, it's just a gauntlet. I think Alabama's going to win it, but watch out for Auburn because Brian Harson's got them. He's got them rolling. He really is. That was a great hire.
All they have to do is beat Alabama.
Well, they also have to win at Texas A&M this week.
They got to win at
Mississippi State next week.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gauntlet. The SEC West is a gauntlet. You gotta find your way through it. Somehow Alabama plays everybody when they're unranked, but whatever. I mean, that's just how it works with Alabama. Once you play Alabama tough, or lose 49-9, you get ranked in the top 20. Yeah, it's going to be Alabama and Georgia, and I think Kirby's going to do it. I really do. I mean, I know a lot of people say Georgia's the best team by a mile. I don't think that's true. I think Alabama's somewhat close. I actually think Ohio State's closer to Georgia than Alabama is, but I think Alabama's going to keep it close. But I think Georgia's just too much. And obviously, I think Daniels is going to have to start because Georgia's going to need him at some point. But Georgia over Alabama.
When I've watched Alabama this year, especially when they go on the road, I don't think they've looked great.
Well,
not compared to previous years.
All right, Big Ten.
I'm going to stick with Ohio State. Ohio State gets the benefit of the doubt until they prove that they should. And I think they have. If they beat Michigan State, they're going to have all the three-way tiebreaker. I think, right, Chris? Is that what you're saying?
I saw a scenario where if Wisconsin wins out and then beats Minnesota, Michigan would have the tiebreaker.
No,
if some things rolled their way or something.
Yeah, there's definitely still up
because there's still a lot of games to play.
But
it's the Big Ten West record combined.
If it ended right now, in a three-way tie, then Ohio State would have it. Yes.
But I don't think it'll be a three-way tie.
It's not going to matter. Ohio State's going to run the table.
Yeah, Ohio State's going to beat Michigan. I'm a little more concerned about the Michigan State game, but I'm not. I mean, until Michigan beats Ohio State, I'm not concerned about Michigan. And then from the West, I think you got to go with Wisconsin probably. I mean, who else has a chance? Purdue, but they lost to Wisconsin and they lost to Minnesota, so they lose both tiebreakers. So I'll go with the same thing. I'll go with Wisconsin and Ohio State to beat them by 50.
Yeah, shocker. Ohio State and Wisconsin. Really, nobody could have seen this coming at the beginning of the season. Shocking. I'll take Ohio State
Cream rises to the top
by 50 points.
I think you're underestimating Michigan's chances in that game. Because I think
I'm not.
What it used to be is Ohio State used to just straight up look over Michigan State because we used to play Ohio State the week before Michigan.
Always the week before, yeah.
And then there were times where, obviously 15 where we just straight up beat them, and then 16 we were 2-point conversion away from beating them, and then Ohio State took us a little bit more seriously, and I think they'll take us more. They'll take us seriously, and I think you play 2 straight top 10 teams. I don't care if you're Ohio State. That's going to beat you up a little bit. And Michigan's going to have a chance.
The reason why Michigan State concerns me this year is that in previous years, especially the last 2 or 3 years, we've been able to rely on our defense, and they've just shut your offense down.
And Drew Chrisman.
Yeah, Andrew Christian, that's right. But so even when our offense didn't play great, I mean, our defense, you guys were scoring like 0 points, so it didn't matter. This year, I'm a little more concerned. I think we do well against the run, but our secondary does not look great, and it's very young.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ohio State will win by a couple touchdowns, but the problem I think Michigan's better than Michigan State, and I think they have a better chance personnel wise to give Ohio State some fits. Now, I'm not even taking into account the fact that Ohio State owns them mentally, but I mean, it is a factor. Michigan's is a very talented team, and they showed they can throw the ball a little bit, which they haven't shown. So, but anyway, I still got Ohio State. It's just you can't pick against Ohio State at this point. In the West, I'm sorry. I'm going to pick Minnesota because at some point, Graham Mertz is going to have to win you a game. And maybe it won't happen until that game. Maybe they won't. Maybe Graham Mertz won't even have to win a Minnesota game. But I trust Tanner Morgan a little bit more. Problem is, will Minnesota be able to run the ball in Wisconsin? No, never mind. No, I'm taking Wisconsin. Minnesota won't be able to run the ball in Wisconsin. I don't care what their offensive line is. And then Ohio State will win it. They'll win the Big Ten, and then listen, we'll go to the Rose Bowl. Michigan will go to Citrus Bowl or whatever they want to go to. We'll see.
Fiesta.
All right, let's go to the picks. We'll start with tomorrow night. A couple games here. Virginia Tech at Boston College.
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech.
Hold on. Yeah, I put a bet on BC money line. I'll take BC. Not because I heard that possibly Jerkoff is back, but I don't think Virginia Tech's very good, and BC is going to find a way to win. If BC doesn't win this game, then Hafley's got to be on the hot seat. There's no other way to put it. All right, Utah at Stanford.
Now, give me a break. He's not going to be on the hot seat after we third string quarterback all year.
Utah at
Utah.
Stanford.
Stanford.
I will take Utah. I think Utah is in a great spot right now. They might be the best overall team in the Pac-12. I mean, Oregon have the big win, but they've been struggling lately. Oh, big game. This is if Air Force gets this win, they get the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. They play Army.
Yeah, I'll take Air Force. They've looked all right. They've looked pretty good this year.
Air Force.
Yeah, Air Force. Ohio State at Nebraska.
Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Nebraska. Just kidding. Ohio State. Wake Forest at North Carolina.
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
I think North Carolina's snake bitten. I'm taking Wake Forest. This is their year. Liberty at Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, but this is the Hugh Freeze return game.
It is.
Big rivalry game here. Kansas State at Kansas.
Can't wait for this one.
Kansas State minus 24.5.
Kansas State.
Yeah, listen. I mean, it's the Sunflower Showdown. These are big rivals. Both these teams used to be bottom feeders. Kansas State's come out of it. Kansas is still bad. Kansas State will win, though. Michigan State at Purdue.
Michigan State.
I'm taking Purdue.
Yeah, I mean, this might be the fourth game. If we find a way to win, it'll be a game that we just don't really. I don't know if we don't deserve to win, but looking at the box score, we shouldn't win. We can't. This luck can't continue. It can't. I'm taking Purdue.
What's the line? Michigan State minus 3.
Minus 3. Yeah. Oklahoma State at West Virginia.
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. I need the Bedlam game to mean something. Well, the first one won't mean anything, probably. Unless besides playoff implications. But all right, Baylor at TCU.
Baylor.
Baylor.
Yeah, Baylor. Auburn at Texas A&M.
A&M.
Yeah, A&M. These like like 12 to 18 SEC teams are always playing each other, and the home team wins every single time.
Yeah, because they all are the same, and they shouldn't be ranked at like almost on the top 10.
Well, I said last week. I picked Auburn last week against Ole Miss, and I said because Ole Miss was coming off a bunch of emotional games, Auburn's coming off a very good win against Ole Miss. Texas A&M. Who did Texas A&M play last week? This is great entertainment here. Oh, let me look this up. Oh, they played a great South Carolina team last week. That was 2 weeks ago. So they're off a bye. Yeah, I'm going to take Texas A&M. All right, Wisconsin at Rutgers.
Wisconsin,
but I think it's a sneaky game because Rutgers can do some things. Obviously, you get a trick play or two and then stop the run well. They could have a chance, but I think Wisconsin will win. Penn State at Maryland. This is a sneaky game.
Penn State.
Yeah, I'm taking Maryland.
I will be taking Penn State as well. I don't trust Maryland at all. Well, Steve Adazio has been killing me the past couple of weeks. I guess we'll bring another one. We'll bring him back again. Colorado State at Wyoming.
Colorado State.
Wyoming.
I'll be taking Colorado State. Mississippi State at Arkansas.
Mississippi State.
Arkansas.
Arkansas. Yeah, Arkansas. NC State at Florida State.
NC State.
NC State.
Florida State. Oregon State at Colorado.
Oregon State.
Oregon State.
Oregon State. LSU at Alabama.
Alabama.
I don't know why I put this game on here.
Yeah, Alabama.
LSU. No, just kidding. Alabama. Tennessee at Kentucky.
Kentucky.
I will be taking Tennessee. I think Kentucky's luck has run out. Iowa at Northwestern.
Iowa.
Iowa 3, Northwestern 2. Oregon at Washington.
Big rivalry game, especially after what Jimmy Lake said and complained about.
Yeah, what a dumb thing to say.
Yeah, I'll take Oregon. Did you see that, Chris?
Yeah, I did. Oregon.
Yeah, I hope Oregon puts it on him. I can't stand Jimmy Lake. I can't stand him. He sucks. Indiana at Michigan.
Michigan.
Indiana's got no pulse. Clemson at Louisville.
What's the line? I'll take Clemson.
Yeah, Clemson close. Texas at Iowa State.
Iowa State.
Rivalry. UTSA at UTEP. This is where game day should have been.
Yeah, I'll take UTSA.
Won last week, they would have been there. UTSA.
I'm rolling with the Fighting Dave Warners. I'm taking UTEP. USC at Arizona State.
Arizona State.
I think Arizona State. Who they lost to somebody really bad last week. I can't remember. Let me look it up here.
Blown out by somebody.
Yeah, it was a really bad loss. Washington State. They just got sassed up by a coachless Washington State team. I think they're done. I think Arizona State mentally is checked out. I'm taking USC straight up. And USC, what is it? Like +8, +8.5? USC +8.5 is my lock of the week. I'm taking USC.
Wow, that's better than Notre Dame over like Toledo, like you had a couple weeks ago or whatever.
No, I had Notre Dame -7.5 against USC as the lock.
You had Notre Dame money line against like our sisters, our lady sisters college or something, whatever it was.
Sisters of the Blind College.
Yeah, you had Notre Dame money line over the Sisters of the Blind College. That was your lock of the week.
All right, looking at the pick standings, Luke is up 6 games on Chris, and I'm sitting 13 games back.
Nice.
We'll try to make up some ground. The reason why I put a lot of games on here is because I got to find a way to make up some ground here.
I want to say I'm at
Yeah,
a
you'll
major
see. You'll see the
I'm-
revenge for that when I start putting 50 games on the basketball podcast because I get down so much.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. I am. If I don't win, I'm putting a protesting because I am at a major disadvantage. The fact that I have to pick first, and you guys can change your picks based on my picks.
Well, you also get to see the games 4 hours before we do. So
Well, I think that's worse because now I overthink things. Like once you two pick something, I'm like, oh, I might have to go the other way.
Well, when the end of the year comes and Chris is down like 5 or 6 games, and he knows what he has to pick, then I can't pick every game that he picks, so he can't come back.
that's true.
Okay. Yeah, I'm already down one in the basketball podcast because of the fair. Are we picking the Grand Valley Michigan State game today?
No, we are not.
Oh, okay.
Well, you would have taken Grand Valley. So,
No, I've thought about it. I don't know who I was gonna pick.
by the way, I'm switching my pick to Maine on the Maine Virginia Tech game.
Okay. All right. Anything else to say?
No.
All right, that's gonna do it. We will see you next week for basketball and football also.